Hello, and welcome to day 2 of our Financial Lunch and Learn. This session covers digital best practices for higher campaign results. My name is Monique Ruiz, Senior Marketing Manager here at Claritas, and I will be your host for today's presentation. Today's speaker is Maria Papadimas, who is a project manager here at Claritas. She has more than 10 years of media experience and 8 years of digital media experience. And prior to coming to Claritas, she spent 6 years at USA Today Network and handled digital campaigns for over 100 financial institutions for the North and Southeast region of the United States. We'll hear from Maria in just a few minutes, but first, we want to start off the presentation with a few digital banking stats that may be relevant to you today as we navigate the challenges COVID-19 has brought about. One area of positive opportunity, if you take the necessary steps, prepare your digital marketing strategy and digital interface of your website or app, is that 1/3 of retail banking customers plan to increase their use of online and mobile banking services post COVID-19. This provides you with an opportunity to reach a larger pool of customers or members in a relatively less expensive manner. That being said, we know there are several smaller banks and credit unions on the call today, so these next few stats are especially important for you. Larger financial institutions have a greater penetration of high engagement digital customers, which is likely due in part to having invested more in curating these spaces. Mid-sized banks have significantly lower online and mobile banking satisfaction scores than larger banks. And perhaps the stat that stands out the most as something to be cognizant about is that 48% of Gen Y and tech-savvy customers are likely to switch banks this year because their current bank doesn't offer varied products and services or meet their needs or preferences or integrate well with other platforms and apps. That's a big group of younger customers or members who may offer lucrative lifetime value who are at risk of switching. So what can you do with that information? Knowing what we know from that previous slide, here's two important action items for your bank or credit union to consider. First, develop and invest in a robust digital interface and a strong digital marketing strategy to raise and retain satisfaction so that you don't run the risk of losing your high lifetime value customers or members to a competitor. And educate your consumer audiences on the product and service offers that you have available to fit their needs, since they just might not know what you offer or how to take advantage of your offers on the channels that they actually engage with. So that's all much easier said than done, but I'm going to go ahead and have Maria come in now to help you know more about the best practices that'll help you achieve those two goals. So I want to preface that we're splitting the conversation into email and social media, but running simultaneous campaigns provides a greater reach against your ideal or target audiences. And in most cases, one really shouldn't be without the other. So Maria, how about you start us off with some email best practices though, since the approach will differ than the approach taken with social or display campaigns.
Thanks, Monique. Let me start first. Why email marketing? Well, because it's one of the most effective digital marketing strategies with one of the highest ROIs. You also gain the ability to create custom experiences, increasing engagement, and deepening your brand awareness with leads, new customers, and returning customers. So these are general stats to consider as you think about your digital campaigns as it relates to email. 46% of email opens happen on mobile. So make sure you optimize your email communication so they render properly on mobile devices. 73% of millennials prefer business communications to come via email. So this is a common assumption might be that millennial generations prefers to be reached via text or social, but don't discount email. 50% of consumers check their personal email accounts 10 times a day. This percentage means you have an ample opportunity for your email message to be seen. This is powerful. And 59% say marketing emails influence their purchase decision. Your emails have a majority advantage of persuading your target audience to purchase from you. Marketers using segmentation see as much as 760% increase in revenue. Now, not all marketers will see these kind of numbers, but it has been proven countless times that a properly segmented campaign provides lift. If you missed yesterday's Lunch and Learn, we encourage you to check out the playback on our YouTube channel when it goes live next week, as we talk all about identifying opportunity using financial segmentation. And last but not least, 83% of emails do not get to an inbox due to poor sender reputation. This last stat is why it's so critical to work with a provider who knows the rules around email, like can-spam laws. The worst thing you can do is create a beautiful campaign that is likely to increase your deposit growth or gain your new members or customers, but that email doesn't hit the intended inbox because of a completely avoidable issue. Now, you don't want to get to just any inbox when creating your email marketing campaigns. We see three challenges come up that we're going to address ways to overcome. First off, you likely don't have an email for all of your customers or members. That is your anonymous CRM. This might be a husband and wife who share their finances, but only one of them registers their contact information, or they even provided a throwaway, like, for example, bob@hotmail.com as their email address, when they really use bob@gmail.com as their primary email. You likely also have people that do not transact directly with you, but are your ideal audiences. An example of this would be the neighbors of your existing customers or members. They can be some of the most cost-effective segments to engage with digitally because they often have the highest likelihood of transacting with you due to similarity with those neighbors who are investing with you. Finally, a third challenge we'll talk about is with anonymous website visitors. 90% of website traffic is anonymous. So one of the most valuable things you can do as a bank or credit union is mine your site. You have prospects visiting every day to see what you offer, but they don't leave any contact information for you to try and re-engage them. This includes your existing customers or members. Maybe they're buying a house and want to check your mortgage lending rates, but they don't sign into their accounts to do their research. These audiences have already expressed interest by visiting your website, so why not leverage email and social to retarget them? So how do you get to the right inboxes of those audiences we just talked about? Leveraging the intelligence of an identity graph is one way. Identity graphs can help you fill in those gaps with emails and other attributes so you have the full picture of who your ideal audiences are. You might be wondering what an identity graph is. Well, simply put, identity graphs connect key online and offline customers' identifiers such as name, physical address, email, and mobile IDs, and other data in a privacy compliant manner to give you a unified view of your customer. But all identity graphs are not the same. So before choosing a partner who can help you fill in the gaps like we talked about on the last slide, you want to ask a couple of questions. And these are not exhaustive of your vetting process, but will help you determine if this is the right avenue for you. So first question, where do you get your identity graph data? Especially as the financial industry has more strict regulations than others, you want to work with a partner who can trust to respect privacy laws. Second question, can the identity graphs help me identify different customers or member segments? If we cannot do that, it's likely of no use to you, and it certainly won't help you solve those challenges we just talked about. So to give you an idea of the depth of data an identity graph can have, we can speak specifically to the Claritas identity graph, which can connect over 270 million consumers to over 600 million devices, and is constantly refreshing its data, which is critical now with the current COVID-19 situation to have the most up-to-date data. Out of those numbers, we average roughly 125 million emails with active opt-in, where we can communicate with these consumers. But that leaves a bunch of people who can be reached via email. That is where another channel like social media, which we'll talk about later, will come into play. Essentially, you're layering for broader scale and reach with this approach. And that gives you opportunity to communicate with those you wouldn't normally be able to via email through a channel that they might engage more with. Management of the data you can get from an identity graph can be done in a number of different ways. At Claritas, we have a platform cold audience anywhere. You would use something like this to do things like build your audience segments so you can see how many you will be able to engage within each channel across, such as email, social, and display, and also view campaign metrics. So we have talked about the challenges you face and how to solve them with identity graph intelligence and mentioned management through platforms. Once you're ready to execute on your campaigns, what happens? How do you know what success looks like? Something to note is engagement rates with a CRM email will differ from an acquisition email. Someone who is already your customer or member will expect that they will receive communication from you in some capacity, right?
Maria just mentioned that average CRM email rates tend to fall in that 10 to 15% range, but the clicks are at 2 to 5%. But on the flip side, acquisition emails tend to fall with a 2.5 to 5% range on the open rates, and then the clicks hit a 15 to 30%. Here at Claritas, what we do is a 3-time standard deployment of emails since we believe that it takes multiple touches to actually create a relationship. So when you're considering a provider to work with, just make sure that they do something like that because many only do a one-time deployment, and we've seen that that actually just doesn't work. So Maria, I'll go ahead and let you jump back in on this slide.
Yes, great. Thank you. So, a key to having success around email is having proper expectations and understanding some of the nuances of email itself. When you talk about measuring success, we stress doing a match back to a transaction or action to measure the true impact of your campaign. Why? Because opens can be calculated very differently depending upon which platform, how it's looked at, etc. So think about the post office. You pay them to make sure that your direct mail campaigns get delivered, and then there are laws in place that require them to do that. With email, ISP, internet service providers are generally blocking or dropping millions of emails daily. It's good practice to look at open rates, click rates, engagement rates, etc. But it's more important to understand the full impact of a campaign with that matchback analysis to the period at which you were mailing to get a true result. There are cases where someone will see your email, know it's from you because they trust you. Maybe they already are a member of your credit union or a customer of your bank, but they don't click on your call to action within that email. And we just open the internet browsers such as Google, Bing, and type in your website address, or even open your app and do the intended action directly. They were influenced by your email, but didn't take that action through your specific email. And if you're just looking at one or two metrics to determine success of your campaign, you might be disappointed. So Monique, what would you say are the key takeaways from what I just went through?
Yeah, so we've mentioned several things to consider when adding email to your campaign mix. And first and foremost, email is one of the best ways that you can communicate your marketing message to your target audience. I don't think there's much argument with that. The majority of America is checking their email multiple times a day, and they are influenced by the marketing messages that they're receiving through email. So making sure that you have your target audience and message predetermined and you've invested in creative is one of the things that we suggest that you do so you can make this part of your regular marketing mix. Next up, we suggest that you work with a provider who can help you fill in the gaps in your CRM and help you de-anonymize your website visitors in a safe and compliant manner. That part's important. That way you're reaching all of your interested audiences. A simple way to do something like this is leveraging the intelligence of an identity graph and using a platform to help manage that data so you know more about who you can reach through what channel. And then finally, understand that the true impact of an email campaign is not measured by one single metric, especially because those engagement rates differ so drastically between CRM and acquisition emails. The key is to look at all transactions and who was touched. Matchback reporting prepares you for the next round, and then it also allows for a tighter integration with your CRM and even suppressing your list for future prospecting and strategy changes because you'll have that understanding of who is converting and why. So Maria mentioned earlier that our own ID graph has millions of email addresses that likely many of your customers and members or prospects can be reached through, but multi-channel campaigns are the most effective. And in cases where consumers haven't opted in to be communicated with through email and or that's not the best channel to reach them through, it's important to work with a provider that has that flexibility to reach them when and where they are ready to engage. And that's how you get the most ROI or return on investment for your marketing dollars spent. So, we're going to go ahead and talk about the specific considerations you need to make for social campaigns. So, Maria, I'll go ahead and throw it back to you for now.
Thanks, Monique. So social media is an essential piece of your business marketing strategy. Social platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter help you connect with your customers, increase awareness about your brand, and boost your leads and sales. So here are some general stats to consider when doing social campaigns. So 60% of banks have had a social media presence for less than 5 years, if at all. 16% of institutions are not satisfied with the results of the social media efforts. So we'll go into more details of what are the best practices so you can run those campaigns for optimal performance. And then 200 million Instagram users visit at least one business profile daily. So again, it's very important that we have that updated social presence. And 1/3 of the most viewed stories are from businesses. And then this is very, very important. eMarketer predicted that Facebook will see a 7% growth in users that are 65 and older this year. And those are also earning 75,000 or more of income. Facebook is their preferred social network. So Claritas is an end-to-end provider who can help you with the 3 types of social campaigns. From identifying who to reach, which we covered in yesterday's Lunch and Learn, to delivering your campaign to them and measuring your results so you can rinse and repeat the cycle. So here are the 3 types of social campaigns. Brand awareness. Again, this is just increase that awareness in the market of your brand, showing your ad to as many people as possible in your target audience. Here, you want to have a message of what makes your company valuable, right? The second one, drive traffic. Here's when we send those target audience to a specific URL. It can be a landing page on your site, a blog post, etc. This falls into consideration bucket. So you want people to get more information about your company. And last is the conversion. This is an action-driven campaigns. This is when you want them to install your app or you want to do a lead generation campaigns, which is just acquiring their first and last name, their email addresses or phone number. I want to spend some time here and elaborate on how important is to choose the type of social based on your objectives from day one to avoid wasting money and getting poor results. The first mistake I see is people using Facebook ads to sell too quickly. They create an ad that pushes cold audiences directly to a sales page to sell something right off the bat. It's too fast and completely inappropriate. And it violates one of the golden rules in social media advertising, which is you must give before you ask. You need a mid-step for a lead generation in which you provide something of value in advance. This is a start of a conversation you can use to build a relationship you can nurture. Then when people are ready to buy, they're more likely to do so from you. So Facebook ads are an interruptive experience. We're competing with photos of your friends and family, news events, and memes. So here are the best practices that you must keep in mind when doing social campaigns. First is visual. Visual content is not only treated more favorably in the Facebook algorithm, but it's also more likely to be shared and remembered than written content. No matter what type of ad you create, your image needs to be visually compelling. Second is relevant, right? We're in the world of relevancy. Relevance is a critical for success when using Facebook advertising. If you're showing ads that are not relevant to your target audience, you're wasting your time and money and will likely not see success with any kind of advertising. Facebook advertising platform rates each ad and gives you a relevance score. Similar to the ad rank in Google AdWords, I often think of this to make it easy, is like your credit score. The more relevant your ad image, our copy and destination page is to your audience, the higher your score is, and the more favorably Facebook will treat your ads. Third, value proposition. It includes an enticing competitive advantage, right? So a value proposition tells the reader why they should click on your ad to learn more about your product or service. How is your product or service different from any other? And why should your audience click on your ad to see your website? Very important. Your value proposition should be credible. It has a clear call to action. So a beautiful and relevant ad is great, but without a call to action, your viewer might not know what to do next. Add a sense of urgency to your viewer. Your call to action should encourage your audience to click on your ad now. So, in order to run a successful campaign, you must measure the performance and make changes as needed. Depending on the campaign you are running, pay also attention to the engagement metrics such as comments, shares, and lead information. For example, if you're running a lead ad, we suggest you work with a provider who can link those leads for you to make the process as smooth as possible so you can focus on the follow up. As for the follow up, do so within 24 hours. If you miss that window, your reputation may suffer. All right, so what are the main metrics that you should be seeing in your report? The most important metrics that you should be seeing and that you should be keeping in mind are first, creative performance, right? You want to see which creative is actually doing the trick for you. Clicks, click-through rate, as always, click-through rate translating to the relevance of your image, ad copy, and the audience. And also, your overall engagement metrics are very important. We at Claritas supply clients with a live link to the ad, access in real time on Facebook to moderate comments, see shares, likes, etc. We can respond to comments on behalf of you. You or your marketing team will need to do that. We suggest working with a provider who will report our metrics to you. But having the option of monitoring your own campaign success is a value add. Metrics translate live in audience anywhere. You can access to see performance of campaign without us having to provide you that data. Understand data like current traffic on your website, including total and unique visits, visitors by segment. So layering a cycle premier financial segmentation, which we spoke about in yesterday's Lunch and Learn, see the demographic and geographic attributes of your audiences, plus device type used and more, depending on the channel you are deploying your campaigns through. All of this data works together to help you stand out among your competition. So remember, if you're following all these best practices and the social media golden rule, you must give before you ask, you will be set up for success.
Thanks, Maria. That was great. I'm going to come back in here now and I'll summarize what you just went through as those key takeaways. So first up, a strong digital presence and engagement. It was important prior to COVID-19, but now it's become a critical factor that's going to continue. And social media offers a huge opportunity for financial marketers to actually reach their ideal audiences where they're going online. So the organic advertising alone that a social media presence offers, that alone has the potential to raise customer and member satisfaction and increase revenue with a limited investment. So it's no longer younger audiences on this channel. As you'll remember a few slides back, that Facebook is actually seeing some of the highest growth from the senior group. So next up, for optimal success, know upfront if your campaign is a brand awareness campaign meant to drive traffic to your website or your blog or convert customers. But don't forget that golden rule that we've said a couple times now, give before you take. Then make sure it's visual, relevant, has a value proposition, and a clear call to action. Lastly, the follow-up after a campaign is important to your brand reputation. If you're asking a prospect to complete an action, but you don't follow up with them in a timely manner, your reputation may suffer, or you'll lose that prospect that might have brought long term value to your financial institution. We appreciate all of you joining us today, and we do hope that you're staying safe out there, especially as they're starting to lift restrictions in some states. If you guys want to meet better prospects, market more precisely, and improve your ROI, I do want to invite you all to check out our brand new Claritas.com website, which we've recently updated the look and feel of. And we've also added a ton of new free insights that you can access directly on there. Thank you again for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your week and an even better weekend. Bye now.